Hello friends, welcome to Communication Skills for Everyone. In this channel you are going to learn English language skills, personality development, vocabulary and all-round development. In this video, let us learn the summary of Digging by Seamus Heaney. So, Heaney was a Irish playwright, poet and academic. So, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. His career was both prolific and successful. In 1966, he published his first major work, Death of a Naturalist, in which this poem is included. So, this poem is after 3 years, he published his second volume of poetry, Door into the Dark. So, by this time, Heaney was already receiving critic acclaim for his writing, and a slew of academic lectures followed. So this particular poem is autobiographical in nature. The speaker, presumably Heaney, is sitting at his writing desk preparing to write when he hears his father working in the garden outside. This recollects memories of the speaker as a young boy, listening and watching as his father digs in the potato garden. The speaker marvels at how well his father digs, which conjures an even older memory of his grandfather, his father's father, so completing the arduous task of digging through poet peat moss. Toward the end of the poem, the speaker writes as though he can smell the potatoes from the garden and peat moss his grandfather has dug. Let us look at the summary of the poem. So, what the first stanza has two lines. Like between my finger and my thumb, the squat fen rests snag as a gun. Here, the speaker focuses on the fen in his hand and he utilizes a simile stating that snug as a gun. This reference to gun is no coincidence. Heaney expects the reader to infer that the pen is his instrument, his weapon. So this idea will repeat itself in the last stanza of the poem also. When we look at the second stanza, the speaker hears the sound of his father's garden spade sinking into the gravelly ground. He gazes down at his father while he works in the garden. There is no punctuation at the end of the last line in stanza 2. So the thought is continued into the third stanza. Till is straining rum among the flower bends. So the flashback quite cleverly in the third stanza. The speaker is suddenly transported to 20 years ago, watching his father complete the same task. Right, 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. Then stanza 4 also provide a kind of description here. It provides the description about as the speaker paints the image for his father digging through the potato beds. Right, leaved firmly rooted out all tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hotness in our hands. So, which gave a kind of description how his father worked. And the stanza 5 is comprised of two simple lines as the speaker marvels at his father. The reader is then transported even further through the time as the speaker then collects images of his grandfather performing the same task. By God, the old man could handle a spade just like his old man. Next stanza 6, it has 8 lines contained in 6 stanza, or the longest in the poem. The first 2 lines read, my grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Tonger's bank. Once I carried a milk in a bottle, corked slightly with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, having swords. Right, the reader gets a glimpse into the setting of the poem. In Ireland, peat moss has been used as an alternative to coal. Cutting turf is an incredibly grueling task, and the fact that the author claims his grandfather could cut more than any other man it provides a kind of importance, not only this physical, not only his grandfather's physical strength, but Henny's own admiration for the hard work his grandfather was able to do by himself. So he was doing that hard work. And also his grandfather out on the bog one day. The speaker here describes a day when he bought bottle of milk to his grandfather. The grandfather barely stops his work, quickly drinking the milk and then returning to digging and cutting. So he continues work. This indicates the seventh stanza returns the reader to the present day. Again, he comes back to that one as the speaker sits at his writing desk. The memories are so clear and alive in the author's mind that he can actually smell the freshly dug potatoes and the soggy peat. He can hear the sound the peat made as it was cut. The speaker realizes that, unlike his father and grandfather, he has no spade to follow in their footsteps. In the eighth stanza, when he does have, however, revealed the eighth and the final stanza, so this contains only 3 lines. Much is contained in its 3 simple lines. Henny uses repetition as once again he describes holding his pen between his finger and thumb. So the diction, the words here is used curious as he uses the word squat to describe his instrument. So his instrument, a pen, while it can describe the physical appearance of the pen itself. So the connection between himself and his father and grandfather, both of whom would have to squat in order to properly dig for the potatoes and peat moss. The last line, I will dig it, signifies that while Heaney realizes his instrument is different from the previous generations, like father and grandfather, he is still completing an arduous task. While his father and grandfather dug for potatoes and moss, he is digging for the right word. He is looking for the right word. He is searching for the right word, constantly attempting to create sustenance through his words. So he's trying to get the words to appropriate words to fit into that context. So this is about the poem Digging by Seamus Heaney.